The episode opens with really everyone dealing with the fallout from the previous episode. Corlys Velaryon has obviously received word that Rhaenys is dead, and we see him at what appears to be at Driftmark in mourning. You can see the heartbreak on his face, and we'll see other characters being sad throughout the episode. It's a traumatic and a grave loss for Team Black, but it should theoretically be viewed as a win for Team Green, but not necessarily the case. Sure, Rhaenys has died. Meleys, her dragon, has been killed. And we see what's supposed to be a celebratory homecoming for Team Green. But because of the importance of dragons, the power and awe that they inspire, the sight of a dead dragon, instead of it inspiring hope in the little folk of King's Landing, instead you can see that they regard it with dread, where it's viewed as being a bad omen. There's we hear little snippets of conversation from people in the street, and one of the guys actually says, I thought dragons were supposed to be gods. And you look at it as, if the dragons inspire great fear in the common folk and kind of helps to keep the various houses and whatnot in check, it doesn't really give the right energy if one of those dragons dies, right? It's not like it's hundreds or thousands of them, right? There's still few enough in number where it's significant for a person to have a dragon and to be a dragon rider. And so while you can think of it as like a PR campaign of sorts, where this started earlier on in the season, where Aegon's son was killed, this thing of them parading the body through the streets, right? And with that, they were able to garner a bit of sympathy. Here, the mindset, I'm guessing, is to parade Meleys's head through the streets of King's Landing in hopes of showing the people that, hey, we've got this war under control. Look at this creature that we have defeated, and its rider, these two very well-known, fierce creature and individual, that we've managed to take them down. But it's not given what they thought, because instead of people looking at this and being filled with pride, like, hey, our guy won this battle, instead they kind of shrink away from it. The visual of a dead dragon, the visual representation of a dead dragon in the form of a dragon's head, it inspires fear. Because you have to think about it, if dragons are these big, powerful creatures, and one of them is killed, imagine the power and capabilities of the dragon that managed to kill this other one. And now, taking that into consideration, and the reality that this war between dragons has now begun, that this was the first battle in this war between these dragons, instead of this dragon's head inspiring awe or admiration, it instead means fear for the people of King's Landing. Because it's like, you're not going to have to worry about, these dragons flying over your town and possibly burning you up and whatnot. These dragons fighting in the sky over your town and one of them crashing down into a building below and killing how many people, or dragons coming into the town and just unleashing fire and everyone out in the street. So the presence of this dead dragon, it's not viewed positively. It's not an admirable thing. It doesn't have the same meaning and significance for the common folk that it does for the members of Team Green. And even you look at it for Team Green, right? Where, sure, they managed to kill Meleys and Rhaenys, but the reality is, which again, this PR spin thing, is that Aegon didn't kill them. It was actually Aemon. And then secondly, that the king, as a result of this battle, is now very near death himself. It seems like the two kind of cross each other out. Like, sure, you might have killed Rhaenys and you killed Rhaenys. Terrible losses, by the way. I really like the character. But it's like, it's unclear how, Sunfire, fell out of the sky, right? So we can assume that Sunfire probably sustained some damage as well. But Sunfire was left behind at the battleground. And here we see that the king is transported to King's Landing in, like a crate pretty much, to kind of keep, I'm guessing, to keep it as much as possible a secret, or to kind of hide the extent of his injuries. Because you look at it where they're heralding it in the street that, Aegon fought in this great battle and defeated Rhaenys and defeated Rhaenys and Rhaenys. Look at this tremendous win. We are the team to get down with. It's not giving that energy, because instead it's like your king, who you're supposedly fighting for, he got all kinds of beat up in this fight. Sure, the other person might have died, but he almost died in the process, and he's not exactly out of the woods yet either. They're trying to use this as an opportunity to build up Aegon's legend, to present him as this deserved king, this king who's capable of these great things, that he is the one to get behind. That seems questionable if you then look at it like, hey, this guy very nearly lost his life in this battle, and he's still fighting for it here. It seems like a less clear and decisive victory, and it's not as admirable or awe-inspiring, because he's like knocking at death's door. But the thing that struck me was, as they're bringing Rhaenys' head into the city, and they are bringing Aegon into the city, up on one of the rooftops, we see, or balcony, I guess, we see Aemon and Alicent, where they're looking on. And just the energy there. You look at it, Alicent has a bit of a strange relationship with her children, where she just talks to them all kinds of reckless. We saw earlier on, in the first season, that sure, she went to bat for them when Aemon lost his eye. But I think part of that was motivated by the static that she had with Rhaenyra at the time. Alicent's kids are now grown, and maybe it's a matter of her seeing them for who they truly are. And really that it says a lot about her, because these are the children that she raised. Both Aegon and Aemon, I like it on the one hand that they're not all the way villainous. They do have some vulnerability that makes them feel and appear more human, right? They're not completely bad. Aemon does some bad things, so does Aegon. But there's a certain vulnerability to both of them that is actually quite endearing. Doesn't excuse their bad behavior, but is actually quite endearing. There's the story being told about Aegon fighting this battle and whatnot and winning and all this kind of stuff. The plot is to have him return home as a hero. But Alicent looks over, and there's I guess you could probably call it, if it's a dagger or whatever it is, that Aegon carries, which was this heirloom that he got from Viserys, right? We saw in season 1, Viserys holding this knife situation, dagger business, while he was telling Rhaenyra about the Song of Fire and Ice. As recently as that last episode, we saw Aegon carrying this around. But yet here Aemon is with this dagger that's of really great significance. He's there with it tucked into his waistband, which makes Alicent suspicious because this is Aegon's dagger. And here Aemon is with it. And you get the sense that Alicent, like, the wheels are turning. You know, she's wondering, it's like the details versus the story don't really match up. You know, it feels as though something went on there and they're not telling the full story. You look at this episode and you think about leadership and who's fit to lead and rule. On Team Green, you had Aegon. His cabinet didn't really think that he was fit to lead or rule. They were planning to just pretty much use him as a figurehead. Now you have where Aemon is seemingly trying to push him out of the picture, and you have Alicent second-guessing Aemon because he's reckless and several of his other traits. Part of it is likely her just not trusting him. You know, you think about it, like, she looks at the evidence and seems to kind of put two and two together that Aemon played some hand in what happened to Aegon. And it's like, you look at it, this guy returns to King's Landing in a crate. He has to be lifted out on a sheet. And when they lay him on his bed, his body is just covered in burns, right? You see them actually peel the body, the suit of armor off of his body. And it's like, while Alicent is likely feeling a range of emotions because she was a jerk to him last episode, here you see that she has some sympathy and compassion for him. In the midst of all this, while everyone else is scrambling about, looking concerned and whatnot, here comes Aemon, who just seems to have not a single care in the world. Expectation. He doesn't have the warmth that you would expect from a close family member in a situation like this. And so it's like, while he watches Aegon, we see Alicent watching him. While this guy is laying on what might possibly be his deathbed, they're trying to save his life. He turns around and broaches the topic of someone having to lead in his brother's space. Maybe we can give it a little bit more time. And a big part of the problem is that, and it has been for quite some time now, is that the Targaryens are ambitious people, hard-driving people. The downside to that is they don't really know how to be team players, and this has been a theme throughout several of the episodes now. Basically, no one knows how to or is willing to play their position. And so you have Aemon pretty much usurping Aegon's claim to the throne, right, by incapacitating him. And we as the audience know that this was deliberate. Back over on Team Black, you have it where Daemon is still trying to raise this army, and he's still hallucinating and all this other kind of stuff. Come to find out, which Larys alluded to last episode, this taking of Harrenhal, that it's going to require a lot of TLC to get it up to proper standards. Daemon, since this kerfuffle started, has been pushing back against Rhaenyra's power and authority. Two of the warring factions tries to bring them over to his side, but his means of negotiation is a bit off, where he threatens them that either they bend the knee and come over to his side, or he's going to light them on fire. Not expecting it, they end up saying, like, go ahead, light her up. And it seems like they're probably under the assumption that this strong fellow who's currently holding Harrenhal, that he has access to the resources to rebuild and replenish this castle. But we come to find out that's not the case. Larys is now the heir of Harrenhal, and as, I think he's like an only child or something like that. But basically, they only do, it's like, they have just laid like the perfect plan to distract Daemon. sending him off in this area where he is going to have to put in quite a bit of work. It's a money suck. They don't have the resources to repair their own castle. But yet here he is, that while Sir Christian Cole is advancing on other castles, building his force as he goes, you have Daemon here trying to build an army in one fell swoop and ending up really putting way too many eggs in one basket. We see him meet with some of the locals that have been fighting amongst themselves. We've seen these two factions a few episodes back, but here they are meeting once again to fight, battle, and whatnot. At the same time, so we have Aegon with Aemon, Daemon with Rhaenyra. You then also have Jace, where he wants to get out there, or he wants to do something, wants to be of some use, and so arguably behind his mother's back, he goes out, lets Baela know, but goes out to try to come to an agreement with one of the other houses. Something that he himself states that he knows his mother wouldn't be quite pleased about, right? He's another one where, much like Rhaenyra, he's uncomfortable being cooped up in the castle for his safety, and so decides to venture out. Again, it's this thing of Rhaenyra and Jace where they are basically putting themselves in this cause in harm's way. The people around them are trying to keep them comfortable by keeping them off of the field, Rhaenyra's council included, where they have plans for what they think needs to be done, but they don't want Rhaenyra to necessarily be a part of it. And you look at that, this is like a reflection of what happened over on Team Green. Jace is fighting to get out from under the control of his mom. Rhaenyra, his mother, is fighting to get out of, being under the constant control of the council, where she complains that despite her being the ruler and then bending the knee and whatnot, even they support her in theory, it's hard for them to do it in fact. The reason being that even this person who either himself or his father has sworn direct loyalty to this plan of succession, that he himself is not fully bought into the idea of a woman ruler, and thus sees it as being important for him and those like him for them to kind of pull the strings from the background. So again, it's just this thing of everybody not playing their position.
Thanks for tuning in. To ensure you don't miss any episodes, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, go ahead and click the thumbs up button if you like what you saw, and go ahead and share it on social media.